Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of this show. We are going to have a great show for you today. But before I even get into the show with our special guest, before I even get into the show, you know, I tell you what, one of the things I do every day is I listen to our station. I listen to KPFT and I listen to the great personalities that we have at KPFT. These folks that work very hard to do what they do to make sure that you're informed. On my way from Starbucks today after writing the show for today, I was listening to the one and only Dean Becker, the expert on marijuana, ganja, whatever you want to call it, weed, cannabis, all that good stuff. Anyhow, you know, I'm not trying to be funny here though, but he said something that really got me upset, and his show is ends a half hour before mine. And I asked him to stick around a bit because you guys know the article that I wrote for Daily Kos that really went wild last week, talk about the fraud that is our economy. And it shows you how the corporate structure continues to infringe on not only your rights, it continue to infringe on your liberties, it continue to infringe on everything about you. People talk about, I want to get the government out of my life. It's not the government out of your life. And come a little closer to the camera, my dear, so that folks can see who we're talking about here. It's not about the government infringing on your rights. It is about the corporate structure instructing the government when they do on your rights. And it is also about the corporations doing what it takes to infringe on your rights. So Dean Becker, it's a pleasure to have you here on air with me for a short while, but tell me a little bit about this stuff and the patent on
cannabinoids?
Right. Go ahead and explain that.
Today's guest on my show was this guy who gets his weed supplied by the U.S. government, and he had a relationship, and I had a relationship with this gentleman, Jeffrey Guy, who heads up GW Pharmaceuticals. They're based in the UK. They have invented two new medicines, Sativex, which is the THC side, and the Epidiolex, I think it's called, which has the CBD side.
Right.
And they are getting approval. It looks like it's going to fall in place before this year is over.
So you're saying CBD is going to be patented by GW, a private corporation?
Right. The patent was
a natural substance.
Exactly. It was first gained by the HHS. And I think they have sold the rights or loaned the rights to this GW Pharmaceutical to produce this medicine, to sell it within the United States legally as a Schedule III drug, which means you can get a prescription from your doctor and you can have it refilled without even having to revisit his office.
Now, do you see why it is that the prison industrial complex, all these industrial complexes are here to try to criminalize marijuana? Because what happens is they know of some good that it can do. Now they want to monetize it, and now that it's becoming okay to talk about it, they're looking into monetizing it for the corporate structure, not for the,
Exactly the same thing is happening in Canada, where now the people who used to arrest and prosecute people, the cops and prosecutors, are now owning the cannabis dispensaries in Canada.
Right.
And excluding the people who for years sought to get the stuff legalized. Those people are being excluded. They're criminals, and they can't get in the industry.
Let me tell you, Dean, I'm learning a lot. Today, I'm learning from you. Yesterday, I learned a lot from a young Houston activist. Her name is Ashley Miller, that she came over. She was on the show yesterday talking a whole lot about cannabis. I have to increase my learning curve on this because I tell you what, this is a corporate structure yet infringing on something else. Look, this wasn't scheduled for the show today, but I needed to talk to you based on what you said earlier today. Right. So thank you so kindly for being here.
You're welcome. Hey, look, the topic has been taboo for a century basically.
Right.
It's getting better, and I'm still walking the streets. I'm friends with the sheriff, the DA, and the folks who run the drug war, so to speak, in this town. They realize it's a failure. Folks, you can speak up. That's why I've done this for 17 years. There is no legitimacy to it. every aspect of the drug war just creates more madness, more death, disease, and turmoil.
Folks, look, the reason I asked Dean to stay here is sort of a call for action. Remember, I'm not an expert on this, but what the call for action here is this. Make sure that you force your politicians, first of all, not to get the corporations into this field, yet another thing to take over. They've taken over your oil. This is stuff that they didn't put in the ground. They've taken over every natural substance in this country. Don't add another one to their repertoires.
Heck no, please.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you coming in, and you have a great one, buddy.
Thank you.
Anyway, folks, we are going to start the show. First of all, I always ask Don, the great producer and program director. How are you doing today, my brother?
I'm all right.
You know, that is a take care, Dane. That is the response I expect to hear from you. Hell, it's great, man. It's great to see you. But anyhow, we're going to have a great show for you today, guys. The title of the show is "The Time Is Now. Hold them accountable for Obamacare sabotage and all else." In other words, now is the time for activation. Now is the time where we are going to be talking to the middle class and the poor, and we are going to put things in manners that they can understand, not the crap that they're going to hear from the evil folk that are going to try to have them vote against their own interests. We care about people, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So anyhow, the subtitle of the show today, and you know what I did? I actually I didn't even give the title of the show. What I actually gave you guys first was, you know what you call this? You jumped the gun, and that's what I did. I jumped the gun. What I really wanted to tell you guys about is a bit deeper than just that one topic. So let me get on schedule here with my phone. I left my pad at home again, so I hope you guys forgive that mistake. But you know what? While I'm talking here, I can just tell you, come on, that our internet is very slow today. I'm going to have to talk to a few people about that. I'm going to have to talk to a few people about that, right, Adon?
I don't know.
Anyhow, folks, look, the topic of the day is going to be, it's time for us to really take a hand in what's occurring in this country. And we have to hold all these folks accountable, these folks that have your life in danger. And that is what we are going to do. That is what we're going to talk about as soon as my pad here, not my pad, as soon as my phone comes up. And guess what? It finally came up that it seems like I am going to be able to read it. And here it is. It is time for those who hurt the poor and the middle class to feel the wrath now. That's the title of the show. The subtitle of the show is "They Lied to the Poor and Middle Class and Created Policies That Hurt Most, Including the Very People Who Voted for Them. It is time to take them out." This is how we do it. Trump and his cabal have lied continuously to Americans. He continues to tell them how great the economy is, even if the greatness of the economy only continues to help the wealthy. And folks, a lot of times that sounds like cliche, but it's not cliche. If you take a look at the tax cut scam, you understand where the money goes. And I've written extensively about that on my blog, egbertowillies.com, and we've spoken about that on other Politics Done Right shows. Please, please, please look up tax cut scam on egbertowillies.com and see all the articles that actually prove to you, to anybody who is willing to listen, where the money is actually going, and showing that that money, any little bit of money that you got, you're giving back when you get your bill in. In fact, my wife just got her insurance bill for the next year, and everything that claimed to have gotten is gone right back into that. So you don't get anything. So anyhow, the middle class and poor are betting on hope and on the charlatans' promises. One cannot sustain oneself on either. Also today, John Rosenthal, who is the candidate for Texas State Representative House District is in the House to promote an important community event. On the Facebook page, I have all the information on how to get to this event. But John decided that he was going to come in here and tell us directly, right, John?
Yes, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm always happy to have you, because you know what? We were talking earlier about people who've given up a whole lot to actually do good. and you are one of those people that I've that I really respect, because again, we share something in common. We're both engineers.
That's right.
And neither one of us are doing engineering right now. It seems like all we're doing is activism right now.
That's what we're doing. So I'm a mechanical engineer by trade, and I've given up my career for the time
I am a
being.
mechanical engineer by trade.
And I've given up actually making money for a living to
do this,
to get into this work, to do the activism, to run for office. I'm a first-time candidate, but it's a grassroots effort. We need more people like this.
But I wrote a little note about altruism on my Facebook page. It got some good responses, but it is necessary. We need more altruistic people. Either be engaged, be a part of it, or support it. And when I say support it, I mean monetarily. I saw an activist last night put a video out, and she said, "Oh, my tires are bald. That's the reason I'm not covering some of the activist events." And the first thing that I said is, an activist shouldn't have to say that, because everybody out there should be saying, hey, you cover us. You make sure that we are aired, because the plutocracies does not allow our message to get out there. We are going to put together and get you some tires.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Support your activist community.
Support your activist community.
We have a lot of progressive activist groups working right now. Support your activist candidates.
Absolutely.
They need your contributions. They need your time. They need your talent. And if you can show up. Show up. We need for everybody to do more than just vote. You have to participate.
And you have to make sure the message keeps going. But anyhow, folks, right. Don't forget to check out John Rosenthal's sites. I also have it inside of the blog post for the show. Not only the event. I want him to go to your site, because there's some good information at your site as well. But anyway, folks, before we get to before that, I want to talk about something that happened to me today, and this is a service announcement that you guys should listen to. I got a text message that told me my credit card was stopped. And when I called that number, it sounded legit, that you just put the credit card number in, and after, it's a computer that talks to you, and it put your credit card number in and so forth. I knew it was a scam, so I put junk in there. But immediately I sent out a text to friends and family that say, hey, there's a new scam going out here. Well, it's new to me. This is how you must address that particular scam. Anyhow, folks, I wanted to make that known. Before I get to the program, however, I want to remind all our listeners that KPFT is a bastion of intelligent voices and programs. As a political activist myself, my favorites are Think Wing Radio with
Mike Honig on Mondays at 2 p.m.
And of course, we have Open Journal with
Dwayne Bradley and crew on Mondays at 6 p.m.
And there is Jazz Latin, Afro-Cuban Latin Jazz at its very best, hosted by
Juan Flores on Tuesdays at noon.
And then there is Gener Asian Radio, a weekly program featuring an eclectic mix of Asian underground Bhangra, Bollywood funk, Hindi, Rai, where ancient sounds meet the future. And they are on
Thursdays from 12 to 2 p.m.
And then Really But Not Really, a hip-hop and R&B parody show on
Thursdays at 10 p.m.
And right after this show, what do we have done?
We have Border Radio with Susan Darrow.
So absolutely, folks, check out our full schedule at kpft.org, where you can find programming from music to politics and medicine to the eclectic. KPFT is listener-supported public community radio station, so please remember that if you like what you hear, visit kpft.org and ensure we remain a strong, viable community radio station that provides news, programming, and information not influenced by whom?
The corporatocracy.
Absolutely not, folks. And from where we spoke with Dean Baker, you know exactly what we're talking about. Is that right, Don?
Yep.
Yup. Do you have any?
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. I think that makes it better. Yes, sir.
That's not what I want, but it's okay. Anyhow, my dear brother, my dear producer, my dear all the other. Do you know what time it is?
I believe I do. Let me see if it's this time.
Yes, it is this time. It's time for the weekly blog post. Okay, folks, and I ask you to listen to the blog post in detail, and then there is a call to action. For those that are listening on the Facebook Live, please remember to share these programs, because that is how we beat the plutocracy. That is how we beat the corporatocracy, ensuring that people get to see these programs, that people are further enlightened, that they're not taken in by the the stuff that they hear on mainstream media. That's the only way we're going to do it. But anyhow, folks, the title of the blog of the week, the time is now. Hold them accountable for Obamacare sabotage and all else. The Trump administration has been a wrecking ball for the poor and the middle class. The Obamacare sabotage will decimate many. Interestingly, the people who are most affected by the evil perpetrated by Trump and his cabal affect the people who voted for him. My friends, I have a lot of Trumpists that follow me, a lot of Trumpists that write to me. My dear brothers and sisters, that's what you are, my brothers and sisters as well. The policies that have been passed by Donald Trump materially takes away from you, extracts from you, hurts you. You cannot support folk that are going to hurt you. That's an absolute statement. That's a non-political statement. That's a statement that says you do not accept anyone that's going to mess with your personal economy, anyone that's going to mess with your personal rights. It's impossible to do so. It is imperative that progressives find a way to inform them pre-2018 election. As the final stretch of the election approaches, we must get ahead of the blast of misinformation financed by the right-wing magnates who follow the Powell Manifesto. Robert Reich's recent article titled "Hold Them Accountable for Undermining the Affordable Care Act" details how they're doing it. They've repealed the requirement that all Americans sign up for health insurance. Republicans slipped this repeal into their tax cut for the wealthy and corporations, but that requirement had meant enough healthy people were not enrolled to cover the sick. With it, 4 million Americans will lose coverage by 2019. 2019 is next year's, brothers and sisters, and premiums will increase by 10%. Over what they've already increased this year. And this is not according to some random folk. This is according to the budget office, the Congressional Budget Office. They've cut subsidies that help an estimated 6 million low-income Americans afford coverage through private insurers. Trump wants you to believe these cuts will save money. Baloney. Ending the subsidies is expected to drive up premiums, therefore increasing costs for taxpayers. Folks, this is real. This is going to have a material effect on your personal economy. You have to know that before you go into the election. You cannot believe just what they're telling you, because the idea is just get you to the next spot. Just get you to look the other way. Just maybe it wasn't his fault. Just maybe it wasn't their fault. Just maybe, just maybe. So you once again, you vote against your own interest because just maybe, it wasn't really them. Folks, how many times do you want to be fooled? Third, they want to flood the insurance market with junk plans. I don't know how many of you remember the old days. I mean, it's not long ago. They've made it easier for small businesses and individuals to buy alternative types of health insurance with fewer benefits and weaker protections. This will leave sicker people and those with pre-existing conditions out in the cold. Now, most Americans, by the time they're 30, they have pre-existing conditions. So this is not only about old folk. This is not only about people that are, the old, so millennials, you better wake up, because you're getting hit from both sides, from three sides. You're getting hit from the college education side, which is costing you more. You're getting hit from the loans that they're pilfering you when you have to pay your, borrow to go to do that. And you're getting pilfered because you have no health care. You can't be on mommies and daddies anymore. You have to take control now. Millennials, you're going to be the delta in this election. You will be the delta in this election. You are the ones that are going to elect the people that are going to make the difference in electing, because all the old people vote the same way all the time. Most of the time, that is. You're going to make the difference. You will. Fourth, they made it harder for people to sign up for coverage, shortening the enrollment period, scaling back outreach efforts, increasing the amount of paperwork. It's even been reported that the Trump administration redirected funds from a marketing campaign designed to promote enrollment to a campaign criticizing the law. Now, how do you criticize? You're the executive. You're in the executive branch of government, supposed to execute the laws written by the state. But I am going to pause here, because My brother has a question about millennials. Go ahead.
So millennials, apparently, if you are on any social media, you would know that millennials are killing everything. But yet and still, whenever it comes to voting, nobody is talking to millennials.
Right.
They're
I
talking
am.
at millennials.
Right.
And whenever it comes to millennials have learned from their parents to not just vote. You have to activate them to vote.
Thank you.
Simple as that.
Let me tell you something. I work with Indivisible and many other groups that have a young flavor. What I do as an individual working that, I'm telling this to the older folks like myself working with millennials, is making sure of one very important thing. You're absolutely right. I don't talk at millennials. I work with millennials. I work with millennials. I work for millennials. In other words, they take the lead. And I am there for an advice if they want it from somebody that's older and from somebody that's seen much. But, they're going to have to live with this stuff when we're gone. That's the bottom line, right?
Yeah. And then a generation after that. And if we talk down to millennials and tell them, hey, this is the way the world works, their children are going to be trained to, this is the way the world works.
You're right. And that's the reason I said that is the reason my model. And I think you've been with me long enough to know that is my modus operandi. Okay, folks. Fifth, they've stopped defending key provisions of the law in court. The Justice Department has stopped defending the Affordable Care Act's protection for Americans with pre-existing conditions in a case brought by Republican attorneys general. So, folks, remember, we must continue to explain to all specifically how Trump's actions will affect them specifically. Don't assume. Don is right. Don't talk at people. Learn about them. Encourage a conversation with them. And then turn the conversation to what you know, where you can explain to them after after they've explained their reality to you, what their reality will mean based on policies effected by the current government. Just don't go hammer something on their heads. You go ahead and be a part of the conversation, my dear brothers and sisters. Then it is imperative that we give them progressive solutions. In other words, this is your life right now. This is what we are offering. Do you think this is going to make your life better? If it's going to make your life better, then this is something that you probably would want to support, right?
Yeah.
There you go. So, folks, look, in other words, it is not only about the evil Trump is doing, but what our people will do when they get into office. We must have these points on the tip of our tongue and ready. We must be ready to say not how bad this other guy is, but how we are going to make a difference if you give us the honor of serving you. And that's the blog of the week. Folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. I'd love to hear from you guys, but right now, I have the honor to speak to my good friend here, John Rosenthal. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great.
Great. It's good to see you here. Now, you came on specifically to give us some information of a local event here in Texas, in Houston, right?
In Northwest Houston. That's
Tell us
right.
a little bit about it.
Out in our little district in the northwest part of town, we're going to have this public education forum where we're discussing a little bit about the way that the law treats charters that move into our public school districts.
Right.
And the way that the Texas legislature has used the law to make charters a tool to really dismantle our public school system.
Now, John, I mean, and since we have a national audience, so a lot of when we talk locally as well, I like to kind of pepper it with how does this affect the nation in general. So isn't this something that we've seen occurring throughout the country?
It's
actually?
A very common theme in red states.
Right.
So you see all over the place, a lot of these red states where you see the teachers under attack, you also see the public school systems under attack. The charter school systems are one of the ways that these state legislatures use to dismantle the public school systems. And that's exactly the topic that we're going to be talking about this Monday night. So we've got a local restaurant called Romero's Las Brazas. I hope I'm allowed to talk about them.
Yeah, please do.
They are graciously hosting our event. So We're out on the northwest side at Ramirez Las Brazos, and we're going to have the presidents of a couple of teachers unions here.
Specifically who?
We're going to have Zeph Capo from Houston Federation of Teachers, and we're going to have Nikki Cowart, who's the president of the Cy-Fair Independent School District American Federation of Teachers. We're also going to have Sherry Matula, for those locally that know her.
She's a great activist.
She's a great activist. She's a huge proponent for public education in Texas, and she's been around the school systems for almost 40 years.
Right.
She knows what she's talking about.
Right. Now, what got you involved into this?
Into the public school?
No, into doing this program. Are you organizing this program?
I'm hosting the program. I'm a candidate for office, like we're talking about. I'm a candidate for state representative in House District 135. And one of the biggest reasons that I chose to get into this race in the first place was all about our public education, our schools in Texas, specifically our schools in Northwest Houston, but it's the same story all over the country.
And that is a shame that we have to. I mean, most kids during the regular part of the year, they spend most of their time with teachers, not with their parents. And to think that we would shortchange our most precious resources, our most precious resource, by constantly cutting schools, and to think that people that generally claim moral superiority or some sort of moral values don't mind that their kids are getting shortchanged in schools is baffling to me. So
it boggles the imagination.
It boggles the imagination, because it's the thing about it is that you don't see the effects of that until 10, 12 years down the road, when you have a lot of mal-educated folk. And that is what, in fact, my contention is right now, that one of the reasons the right, and we have to understand that the right never used to be, the right wasn't, or conservatism was just a pushback on liberalism. It wasn't a bad thing. It was a pushback on liberalism, which I always believe in having restraint. I know a lot of people, first of all, folks, let me give my bona fides. I am a left-wing liberal, more liberal than most folk. I'm pretty sure more liberal, more progressive, that is, not liberal, progressive than most folk. But what I always tell people, why I love my conservative listeners, my conservative friends, is that they force me to think.
Absolutely.
Right? They force me to think, because as they give me a pushback, it makes me tune what I have to say. It makes me tune our thing, and it makes for better policy. And that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, but what we have now isn't conservatism. What we have now is crazy.
It's absolute craziness. And if you consider, every state in this union has it written into their constitution that one of the primary roles of state government is to educate the children of the state.
Right.
Our state is exactly the same way. So at least the people who wrote these constitutions thought it was important. I also believe it's important to educate all of the children.
Absolutely so.
It's terribly short-sighted not to. You don't know where the next Elon Musk or the next Barbara Jordan or the next Albert Einstein could be in any of these schools. It could be any of these children anywhere. It's our responsibility to educate them all.
You're correct, but I don't even want to go that far, so you don't know who next Albert Einstein is. Okay, I don't even care about that. I want to know that we're going to have an educated populace who can make decisions based on. I mean, when if the decline started for quite some time, but when people are allowed to say, "Oh, I am going to be able to cut the amount of money I'm giving to healthcare. I'm going to be able to privatize this part of healthcare, and somehow things are going to cost less," and people buy it. It stands from not having that grounding in math and science.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
So, and what I'm saying is that actually affects what's occurring. But let me go to
right quick. The founding fathers of the country believed that an educated population was vital to having representative democracy function.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. If you don't have an educated folks, you cannot make educated decisions based on what you need in society. I mean, if you have a whole bunch of dumb folks and everybody's hungry, then the first thing they think of is, if there are a whole lot of seeds there, we'll eat all the seeds that are there. In an educated society, folks would know, well, there are a whole lot of seeds there, but we need seeds for the next generation of plants, so we have to take some out and put some aside. And that's a difference. That's a simplistic example, but that is the kind of stuff that we're talking about. And that is something that Americans have lost. In other words, we've reached a point where arithmetic doesn't mean much. Science doesn't mean much. We forget that those things value. Jerry, you're coming on air right now. Jerry, come on in.
Yes, hello. Good afternoon, Egberto.
How are you doing, sir?
Jerry L. here.
Talk to me.
This is, my name's Jerry L. I talked to you recently. As a matter of fact, I think I even talked to you yesterday.
Oh, well, talk to me.
I wanted to comment on your program here.
Please do.
I also work a lot with millennials.
Uh-huh.
I think they do know what's happening. And I liked a lot of your comments, but I did notice, even though you did an extremely good job trying to defend the jerry-rigged, very complicated, almost IRS level complications of the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. The fact that it's so easy to take apart is one of the reasons, and difficult to explain, is really one of the drawbacks with the old Romney Care. And I really do think that in some ways you're better off talking about Medicare for all.
Oh, let me tell you something, first of all, Jared. You are absolutely right about Medicare for all. And if you take a look at everything that I write, both on, first of all, I am the author of the site called singlepayerhealthcarenow.com. That's my site. Okay, just so you know. Singlepayerhealthcarenow.com is my site. That is a sister site of egbertowillies.com. So nobody have to convince me that single payer is the way to go. Now, what I try to say is the following, and that is we couldn't get single payer because we progressives, left-wing progressives like myself and yourself, we didn't get the job done. That's just bottom line. If we had gotten the job done, it would have been there. We didn't pressure enough. A lot of us, and I don't know about you, but to put it bluntly, I did give President Obama a pass, even on the public option area. And look, we can't live over the mistakes that we made. The thing is, how do we make the transition to single payer Medicare for all? We have to work together to do that. That's what I'm in. Like I said, my singlepayerhealthcarenow.com site has been up for over a decade.
Well, good. I don't think that trying to defend the Affordable Care Act is helpful. Now, I understand, and which you're not, obviously, sort of a neoliberal conservative Democrat running for Congress who believes that they might be able to shake loose some PAC money or something from the Hillary Obama crowd, that it may be useful to talk about that, but just my opinion. But
okay,
we're on the same page.
But I want to really address that though, because that is something that happens in our progressive space. And then if John later on, if you want to add to this, and by the way, folks, this is a call-in show, and we have a lot of lines. 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. I want to be clear, Jared. I'm not here supporting that I love Obamacare. What I'm telling you is the following, and I am telling you this from experience as a person who's owned his own software company. While I fought like hell for Medicare for all, then public option, what Obamacare provided was then better than what we had as an option. And I'm telling you, and I think you work for yourself as well, right?
I work for myself. As a matter of fact, I'm a Social Security disability attorney, so all day long I talk.
So you understand that? Who
are trying to prove they're disabled,
right?
But having a $6,000 copay,
right,
doesn't, for many people it just doesn't help. And I did do a beautiful job for about two classes of people. Like we were able to keep our son on our
policy till 26
until he turned 26. It worked beautifully for those people.
Right.
It also worked beautifully for that small portion of the population who had enough money to buy expensive private insurance, but was being prevented by pre-existing condition rule.
Exactly.
Other than that, it basically was a relatively lousy, particularly the lower plans, like I'll give you a perfect example. My nephew who makes minimum wage. He went to had 2 or 3 day hospital stay just a couple weeks ago.
Right.
He's got a $6,000 copay on the lower levels of Obamacare.
Right.
He makes minimum wage, and what he makes it really, it wouldn't have, it's no different. He's never going to pay the $6,000.
Right.
If he didn't have insurance at all, they still would have taken him. So, I mean, it's more or less like a fig leaf. And it was, I mean, I'm not saying, I just gave you the example. That
Oh, no. I mean, and that's fine. And I don't have a problem with the example that you're giving at all, Jerry. But what I'm saying is, above and beyond what you're saying, your nephew, had he not had insurance, he would have had a hell of a harder time getting into that hospital. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, the fact of the matter, that's just a fact. So what I'm saying is, if just to get him there, he's not going to pay that $6,000. That's going to be written off.
At least get the hospital to make a little money on.
There you go, brother. There you go, brother. But look, we're on the same team.
On the same page.
Absolutely so.
Clarify that. I don't know, and for certainly certain people, since it's so identified with the more conservative wing of the Democratic Party.
It is.
For political purposes, I can understand why.
Gerald,
you would defend the
No, Jared, there's no defense there, my brother. Let me tell you something. If you look at my critique of the Democratic Party and the establishment, if you read what I write on Daily Kos, if you see the attacks that I get on Daily Kos from those who live by the establishment, you would understand exactly where I'm coming from. So please do that, my dear brother. I would call it,
Alberto, as you know, we're pretty much on the same
Absolutely,
page,
brother.
I'll get off the phone so you can have somebody that will probably be attacking you from the right.
You have a good one, brother.
Have a good day.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Dave, you take care. All right, number 2. Well, you have anything to add to that before I jump to number 2? Line 2, I don't know who that is yet. So do you have anything to add about?
I'm not going to jump in that.
Okay.
I will jump in it though. I've seen a lot of criticism from the right for this movement for Medicare for all,
right?
Where they talk about what it's going to cost,
right?
But they don't talk about what the current system costs now,
because there's no comparison.
There's no comparison
at all. It's
an order of magnitude different. It would save the country trillions of dollars.
Even the conservative, conservative paper by the Koch brothers came out and said that think about it. They said that covering all people under a single payer will cost less than the current system, who still leaves over 50 million people uninsured.
Exactly right.
And the vast majority of people
That's
underinsured. So take a look at that. That's all you have to look at. All right, Johnny, come on in, my brother.
Hey, Alberto.
Yes,
again,
sir.
Thanks last week or the week before for bringing Lupe Valdez to the airwaves.
Absolutely,
really
sir. Absolutely.
Also, thank you again for putting Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the Daily Casa or whatever channel it was.
Absolutely. I made sure to do that as well. Yes, sir.
She was really good. What that previous caller failed to mention, I believe, since I heard most of the call, but not all of it, is that the reason why modest Americans living in this state get screwed over like that, it's not because of the ACA per se, it's because the Republicans purposefully undermined that law to make it possible for Republican governors like the Yahoo we got right now to deny authorizing. And why does one man get to do that, by the way? But that's another discussion. But why one man?
You want to explain that a little bit, because what they need to know is that Texas does not accept the Medicaid expansion to Obamacare, which makes a huge difference.
That's correct.
It's leaving money on the table.
What does that mean? The long story short, people of modest income get screwed over with high deductibles or inadequate insurance. God forbid, like my sister had a $33,000 operation. She didn't have the money to pay for all that. Why? Because, well, she voted for Trump. That's one problem. But the other problem is we have a Republican governor who will not accept Medicaid expansion.
That's right. I'm going to jump in on this because this is one of the reasons we need to elect progressives into the state legislature, because we can pressure the governor to change that decision.
Thank you.
I agree with you.
It's not all Obama. It's thank you, Rick Perry, and thank you, that other Yahoo in the wheelchair right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. So you're right that it does not need to be one man who makes that decision for the
Remember, gentlemen, numbers don't lie. Republicans do. Have a good day.
All right, Johnny. Hey, Johnny, as usual, you're always great having on air, my dear brother. Okay, let's go to Chris. Chris, here on line 1. And folks, we have open line 713-526-5738. Again, that is 713-526-5738. Give us a call in. Come on in, Chris.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Thanks for taking my call.
No problem, sir. Talk to me.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say I really appreciate your show. I appreciate KPFT, Pacifica Radio. I would really, really appreciate even more if you guys would get together, all the different programmers, and announce when voting is coming up with some advancement. Some of you do it, some of you don't. Most of you say it when early voting is upon us. And a lot of us are working, and there's a lot of folks that they don't know what they need to do to renew their registration. We've heard what's happening in Florida and other Republican states. So it'd be nice, for you guys to do kind of like a public awareness, like a little snippet or something, and just let people know, hey,
we're working on it.
Having the early voting in such and such place. If you wanted some information on how to get registered, I called them and they said you could either go downtown or go to an office that's doing early registration. And I think that's really going to help us all.
Chris,
that want to make changes. Yes, sir.
Let me tell you, first of all, thank you for saying that. Thank you for calling us out on that. And as you were calling us out on that, I just got a message from our program director who said we have a PSA coming to the station that's going to handle that. But I'm going to take it a bit further. I am going to learn from what you just told us here. And I'm going to start adding to my blog that information. I have a candidate in this office right now in John Rosenthal. And what I'm going to ask John to do as well is let's make sure and get that done, John, because what the guy says is absolutely correct. We have to tell folks not only about when voting is coming upon us, but also it's time to start telling people to go register to vote. And I know there are a lot of folks out there doing that. But those of us who have the responsibility on air and on these other programs, we need to be more intentional with doing that. So, Chris, good call out, and we will oblige, sir.
Yeah, absolutely
Awesome.
right.
Thank you very much for the call, my friend. Anything else you want to add? Oh, they took you off. All right, folks, we have empty lines. Call 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Let me go ahead and ask John again to tell us a little bit about his the event with the educational event that he's having on the 20th of August, I believe.
It's on the 20th of August.
Right.
It's on the Monday night, August the 20th. We're going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. at this restaurant called Ramirez Las Brazas, which is Loganbow at Highway 6. It's in Northwest
Where's
Houston.
it
Loganbow at Highway 6.
Okay.
So it's Northwest Houston. It's near 1960 and 290. That intersection is right in the middle of our district.
You may want to go ahead and just drop me a line with all. Well, you did send me
I did.
You did
So
send me. Yes,
we'll
yeah.
have links up. You can find links also on the Facebook page, Rosenthal for Us All at Facebook. Rosenthal number 4 Us All Facebook. So we've got links up there. We're going to be talking about charter schools moving into the public school district. We've got one being built in our school district right now, but we're going to talk about a number of other things related to public education as well. So
No, and I think you have some luminaries there as well. Folks, we have open lines, 713-526-5738. Again, that is 713-526-5738.
I want to add a comment about the previous callers.
Sure.
About the voter rolls.
Yes.
So folks may not know that Texas is one of the states that is aggressively purging voter rolls. We are in a heavily gerrymandered, heavily voter suppressed state. So please, please, please make sure that your voter registration is up to date. We got voter registrars combing the city right now. It's part of our effort. We're and especially if you live in apartment complexes, stuff like that, we need for folks to make sure that their registration is up to date so they can participate in the process.
Well, I've been watching all the Swing Left and the Pantsuit Republic and several other folks really working very hard in doing that job. So I just want to give all you guys kudos for all the work you activists are doing. Like I always talk about altruism. Brother John here, an altruist, because again, he at his own expense, he's doing what is necessary to get moving. Okay, the lines are heating up. I got to get busy. All right, come on in, Tom. Talk to me.
Hello there. I'm about the medical coverage here in America.
Yes, sir.
Situation.
Yes.
The situation I find myself in, I'm in a single payer.
Right.
And it's called the VA system.
Right.
And it sucks.
Right.
And I want to know how you justify a non-competition situation better than a competition situation.
I love that. Is a perfect answer. Please turn the radio down, sir. But one of the
I don't
reasons.
have the radio on.
Okay, I'm getting some sort of feedback. But let me tell you, sir, that is a perfect question. Okay, and the first way that I'm going to answer that question is as follows. Number one, a single payer system does not have to pay multiple charges to lawyers and to advertising and to all of that. So right off the top, there is a 20% saving. It is okay for you to tell me. It is okay for you to tell me that there is a problem with the VA system. Your problem with the VA system, though, has nothing to do with it being single payer. It has everything to do with it being mismanaged. They are mutually exclusive. It's just like we have a lot of mismanaged private companies. You can have a mismanaged government entity. That is what we're looking at. Now, when it comes to arithmetic, math is absolute. The fact of the matter is that in a system that you call has competition, there's something called profit on nothing, meaning profit on services that don't produce anything. And that inherently is wasteful. That inherently is inefficient. Medicaid, nobody, no person, older person is going to give away their Medicaid. That is a best run single payer system. And don't believe all the crap you hear about how it doesn't run. See who really doesn't like their Medicaid system, Medicare system. They love it. And the truth of the matter is, we will get a whole lot more people served for single payer. Do not buy what they're feeding you. And that's what I'm asking all people that are listening to me here. I have written document after document, and many have done as well, that proves and shows exactly why single payer, it's an absolute statement. Medicare for all, single payer, there's absolutely no way that the private sector can do better than that. Now, a lot of calls came in at the same time. Let's see, a lot of calls got to raise their window. So, folks, you may have to call back again, okay? Because we had some issues with answering all those calls. So call again. I'm sorry that you got hung up on. I'm going to Carly right now. Carly, come on in.
Hi. So I have a question for you. How do you feel about legalizing recreational and medical marijuana in Texas? I
want it to be legalized. I want to have legalized medical marijuana and recreational marijuana. Let me tell you something better. And I spoke to a young woman yesterday who is an activist here in town. Her name is Ashley Miller. She was on a show yesterday. So take a look at our show yesterday at politicsdoneright.com. But here is the deal. If you are going to allow liquor, a recreational drug, to be legal, I don't see how you can't allow marijuana to be legal. You have to remember one thing. Nobody dies from ODing on marijuana. In other words, you cannot take enough DBD and THC in your system to actually die. But alcohol is different. Think about how many university students die from alcohol. They don't die from getting high. I think you wanted to add something.
There's a bunch of other stuff about that too. So alcohol also leads to tons of traffic incidents, traffic deaths, and also nobody gets stoned at home and beats up their wife. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
Alcohol incites violence. Marijuana does not.
Right. Now, let's be frank, though. I like to be 100% with all my listeners. What is a fact, however, is that people like for everything that they want that they can't afford, or everything that they want that is illegal, that tends to bring in some type of thievery or violence or something like that to get something that you don't own. So I don't want to make it look like some panacea with marijuana. I just read this. I wrote a paper on it, a little piece on it today. But what we're actually saying is there is absolutely nothing close to how bad alcohol is compared to marijuana. I got a quick question from Brother Don.
Yeah, I was going through Ballotpedia, of course.
Yes.
And it's a quote from John. It says, I will always make the highest priority of taking care of our people and helping to solve the problems that face our communities. What do you think the problems are?
What do I think the problems are that face our communities right now? It's a pretty broad question.
Well, like what's the first thing that you're going to do and go, this is a huge problem?
The first thing up for us, and this is for our communities across the state and across the country, is the public education under attack. Okay. The second thing I feel like is our healthcare, the cost of healthcare. And I want to wrap into healthcare a conversation about reproductive rights, women's health issues. Texas in particular, we have got one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the country, in the free world even. So it's obviously a big problem. And then I think criminal justice reform is a massive issue for us here in Texas and in a lot of red states in the country, where our bail system unfairly treats poor people and
come on, say it. Poor Black people, poor Latinos,
and communities of color.
Yeah,
absolutely. They are treated unfairly at every level, but the bail system is something we can do something about right away.
Okay,
so those are three issues right up front.
That's good. Now I would flip healthcare and education, because you can't be dead if you go to school. I mean, if you're dead, you can't go to school. So anyhow, let's go to line number 6. Corey, come on in.
Hey, I appreciate taking my call. My
Absolutely.
question is kind of the same as Carly's, but it's directed towards John. What district is John running in?
I'm running in House District 135. So
where is that at?
It is Northwest Houston. It's Jersey Village and the Cypress area. So it's a bow tie shaped district. In the center of that bow tie is 290 and 1960.
And you're running as a Republican or a Democrat?
I am running as a Democrat. There's an incumbent Republican who's been the chair for 24 years, and you can see a little television about him if you Google John Oliver payday loans.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's just say you were elected, John. Would you be interested in introducing a bill that would legalize cannabis and also provide medical relief for people in Texas?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay.
I got
I saw
no problem with
two
that.
things, the health care and the criminal justice. I believe legalizing cannabis could help out both of those. Obviously, medical could help out our health care. But
right. I agree with you. I think not only do you want to legalize marijuana, but you want to release all the nonviolent offenders. You know, those people are serving jail time for no good reason.
I agree 100%. I appreciate y'all taking my call. Thank you.
Corey, thank you so kindly for calling in. Oh, we just lost Muriel. Did Muriel, give us a call back. We'll take you as soon as you get. Anyhow, folks, we got open lines. We still have about 6 minutes. We can answer calls. 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. We got a rush where all lines were taken. Don just couldn't get to all of them fast enough. But
I got to them.
You got to them. Okay.
Yeah, it was a bunch of people who don't know how to use a phone.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a bunch of just garbled mess. And I can't answer that. Okay. But I did have a question that you might be able to answer, John. We're in Texas, and let's not fool people. And we steer away from this question all the time. With the deregulation of the actual oil companies, what is your idea of, because, you know, of course, education and everything else, but a lot of people and a lot of these cities and small parts of our country, that's all they have are these oil companies. So what is the pipeline from growing away from dirty oil and having people where they can't breathe their own air and there's carcinogens in the air? What's next?
That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked that question, because I like to talk about this a lot and it doesn't seem to generate a lot of jazz, but I feel like we have all this, let's call it infrastructure. We have all this capacity in Texas and in Houston in particular for oil industry, manufacturing, testing, you know, all that stuff, which could easily be mapped to clean energy industries. So I don't understand why we don't have incentives to bring clean energy industries into our state, like into our area.
In the Galveston Bay, through a few windmills and some wave technology that's being developed.
Not just
overseas.
that. Let's have the technology here where we are making the turbines for the windmills in our factories and our industrial locations.
Hey, let me get some callers because we're running out of time. Hey, Muriel, come in line number 1. Come on in, Muriel.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about that guy that called in about the VA, and he says it sucks and it's bad, but I'll tell you what, I've had the best luck in the world right here in Houston, and we've got one of the best VA systems right here in Houston that Michael Dubecky's Center. The only thing bad about it is hard to find a parking space.
You know something? I am glad.
The other thing, I go get mine at Tombow, and I've had the best luck, and they've treated me the best. So I don't know where that guy's getting.
Let me tell you where they get it from. Where they get it from is that the right continues to tell people how to think, and then they start to believe the crap that they tell them. So that's it. So thank you very much, Muriel. I got to run to the other call. Okay, Matthew, come on in.
Hey, so I teach high school. I got a lot of students that are interested in the medical profession.
Yes.
How do we keep them motivated if they have this fear that wages will drop if we go to a Medicare for all.
I can answer that question very well. Okay, the reason why a doctor may have to make $500,000 is because when he gets out of college, he has $500,000 debt. So I mean, if you're an educator, and what you should be doing is educating, and the way you educate them is to let them know, well, guess what? You no longer have a $500,000 bill to pay. You no longer have to make $500,000. You no longer have to make $500,000 a year, because guess what? When you were making $500,000 a year, half of that was going to the banker, and the banker was making the interest off of it, etc. We have to start doing things and teaching people how to think correctly. And when I say think correctly, I'm not talking about telling them how to think. I'm telling them how the numbers really work out. You are asking a doctor today to make a whole lot of money to pay off a banker. We're telling a doctor, you don't have to make money to pay off a banker. All right, Tag, come on in, my friend.
I think one way it'd be cheaper to have health care is where you start treating for the disease and not for the symptoms, because so often insurance companies, they just want to treat symptoms and have recurring bills. But I just wanted to see if that is. I saw a Republican U.S. senator on TV the other day, a black guy.
Yeah.
And I don't remember his name, but you guys probably know who he is. I see one of the few. Anyway, he was touting that the Republicans are all about the economic zones for that's what they're pushing for, to try to bring. So I don't know if you guys could. I don't see any.
Let me just tell you, all of that. Anytime you talk about economic zones and all of that, that is nothing more than corporate welfare. Just remember that. All it is welfare recipients, people who want something for nothing, and they wear suits and ties. I wrote an article for Daily Kos where I said, don't worry, look, welfare recipients, if you just put on a suit and a tie, and you would be a respectable welfare recipient. The people that get them. Yeah, go ahead.
So they say they're going to bring jobs to a certain area, like having zero taxes and stuff like that. But then the money goes to the corporations.
There you go.
Provide the jobs, right?
There you go. Exactly.
Okay, thanks, guys.
You have a wonderful day. Folks, look, hey, John, we are close to the end of the show. I want to thank you so kindly for being a part of the show today. Like I told you before, I have a lot of respect for people like yourself and all the other activists in Houston. And folks, I'm going to have all you guys on air, because you know what? We're the ones that are going to make the change in this country. So, John, first of all, thank you for actually running. And thank you for not only running, but being the activist that you've always been.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, folks, and what we need is for you out there, not only to be activists, to support activists. We need, like I mentioned about that person who needed tires, that person who needs to sustain themselves as an activist. Folks, let's do what the others do, and let's support our folks. This is Egberto Willies. My name is Politics Done Right, and I am out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.